Hey everybody, I want to do this video as a thought exercise. Exercise our brains a little bit. This is not a video that is necessarily supporting one view or another. The point is, what I'm going to do is I want you to think and I want you to feel and then think about how you feel and why you feel that way. Because there is this interesting phenomenon that I witnessed earlier today, and I want to call it moral objectivity. Right? It's a fallacy, I think, in my opinion, to be morally objective. Right? And so, what is objective? Well, objective is basically a fact that is immutable. You can't change it. Right? Sky is blue, grass is green. Right? We think those are, we pretty much assume those to be true. Well, it's cloudy right now, so is the sky blue? No, it's kind of more of a silvery gray. Well, there's a problem. Yeah, with the grass is green. Now my neighbor's dead ass grass. It's brown. It's brown as shit, right? Well, so even this is, and with morals live in the emotional world, right? So there's very little that we consider that we would normally consider to be fact. Facts are not nearly as solid and immutable as we would like to think. Facts are still pretty squishy. Case in point, sky is blue, grass is green. Squishy. There's other things that are a little easier, like numbers. 2 plus 2 is 4. Right? 1 plus 1 is 2. Well, that depends. If you're in a different number system, such as the binary number system, 1 plus 1 is 10. So that still isn't necessarily objectively true. So when people try, when you're dealing with difficult people and they're using manipulative constructs, they're using morals, for example, right? So here lately I've been recommending using the no good Scotsman arguments and fallacies to trip up someone with narcissism, to get them to do the right thing, right? But that is a moralistically squishy argument, right? And that's one reason why I say, after you say it, shut the hell up and just let it resonate in their head. Because even the most fundamental morally objective positions still have wiggle room. So, for example, in the case, let's say you have a grown man and a teenage child of whatever gender. Would that adult man be in his right to chase this child, corner this child, and beat the child up? Your initial reaction would be like, oh, no. And you start to think, well, that depends, right? For example, if it's a school shooter and you have an adult male seeing a teenage shooter at the school, presumably male, but a girl can grab a gun. Would he be in his right to chase this child down, corner the child, pummel the child into submission, and disarm the child? Well, yes, right? What if it's not a gun? What if the child has nothing? What if the child just says that he's going to shoot up the school? Would he still be in his right? Well, you say, well, probably, yeah, if that's he has vocalized a threat, right? But it also depends on how it's said, because you can always have a bad reading of a transcript, right? Like there's a difference, like, what, I'm going to go shoot up the school versus I'm going to go shoot up the school. You see what I mean? So it's squishy. There's multiple layers to this, right? What if, in a different situation, what if the the child is not a school shooter? What if the child is just a child? And let's say the adult is drunk and misinterprets something that the child has said or done. We've all seen it where drunk people think that people are talking about them, but they're really not, right? And so then this drunk guy goes and chases down the child and beats up a child. Well, that's assault, right? Well, in this situation, does the child have the right to defend themselves, right? Like, let's say let's say it's like at a little league game or a baseball game, right? We'll say a baseball game, right? Let's not use little league. Let's use teenagers, like 16 to 18 years old, right? If a teenager has a baseball bat at a baseball game, and a drunk dad comes up and starts trying to beat up the kid, does this kid have the right to hit the grown man with a baseball bat in self-defense? Well, probably. What would you think if the kid tried to run from the man, and only when cornered, only then did the boy use the baseball bat in his defense? Would that be justified? You'd probably say, yeah. What if the boy has a knife instead of a baseball bat? Right? Let's say the boy is not even a baseball player, but let's just say he's there at the baseball field, not even part of the game, not even part of the school. Some other kid there on campus at the baseball field with no reason to be there, carrying a knife. Well, then suddenly the position changes a little bit, right? So then what would happen? Would this adult, even though he had been drinking, be justified in chasing this child down? You see some teenage kid, 16 to 18, walking around looking for trouble with a knife. The father attempts to, detain. I won't even say retain. I know that's not the word. Would this father then be in his right to try and detain this child, to try and find out who he is, get some identification, find out what he's doing, why is he walking around with a knife? Let's say the father or the grown man then chases this boy. The boy tries to leave, and the grown man chases him, corners him, and gets stabbed. Right? And notice what I'm doing in all of these situations. I'm keeping the actual events, the interactions constant, at least as constant as possible. I'm simply changing the context of what precipitated these actions, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. This is the same set of actions, the same events playing out, but I'm changing the context on these a little bit. Right? So, yeah, if it's just a drunk father chasing a child and the child gets cornered and stabs this guy because the child is scared, is that self-defense? Well, what if the child isn't even part of the school, not even part of the baseball team, say a drug dealer, right? I mean, let's face it, kids can be bad people too. If it's a kid up to no good and gets spotted and tries to flee and chase him down. Who are you? Why are you here with a knife? And gets stabbed. Then what? Who's the victim? Is it the child the victim? Because, maybe he was just there just because he wanted to check it out. Right? Kid carries a knife because it's a self-defense weapon. Just wanted to come visit the game. Was clearly unwelcome. Said, okay, fine, I'll leave. No, you're not. You're not going anywhere. Yes, I am. I said I'm leaving. Right? No, you're not. Well, I'm not staying here since it's obviously hostile. So the boy says, you know what? That's fine. I'll leave. And then they say, no, you're not going anywhere. We're calling the police. Well, now it's like, well, that seems like a lot of trouble. And I have a knife in my pocket, which I carry for defense, which wouldn't have been a problem until now. Well, then what? Right? So the point that I'm wanting to make here is that I've taken the similar situations, near identical situations. I don't know how many different iterations of it I went through, but I went through a lot. And I did the best I could to keep the sequence of actual events. Like if you were to just see it on security camera footage and on mute where there's no audio and no context, you just see an adult chase a child to a corner, and then the child attacks or stabs or defends himself, right? And then the adult takes the child down. If you don't know the context, you don't know who is the victim and who is the hero. And furthermore, if somebody presents this video to you and lies and says something along the lines of, well, this father's a hero because this armed teenager who could have been a drug dealer, could have been a bad person, walking around with a knife shows up, and this eagle-eyed father neutralizes the threat, right? Versus some innocent child just happened to come from the comic book store, carries a knife because he's 16 and kids do stupid things, decided to check out the baseball game, was immediately greeted by a hostile drunk adult, opted to offer to leave, and this adult wasn't having it, tried to leave, got cornered. Well, then suddenly your position changes a little bit. And I want to end with this. Just about everything you read on the internet now, or you see in the news, or you hear from your friends, information is all prone to these types of errors and changes and fallacies. Okay? It's very easy to do. And so you have to understand that just because an adult beats up a child or a teenager doesn't mean that they are the villain. That doesn't make them the bad guy. It may also not make them the good guy. And depending on who is doing the writing, right? Whoever is writing history, whoever's writing the article, is going to make you feel the way they want you to feel, not the way you should feel. But most everybody these days writes with the style of recruiting people to their way of thinking, instead of presenting things factually objective. They're presented morally objective, and that is squishy. And so just understand, this is one reason why not everybody agrees all the time, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with everything everybody says. They don't have to agree with you, and it's plenty fine to disagree. It's usually a good practice to say, well, let's find out both sides of the story. There are two sides of a story, aren't there? Let's wait for more information to come out. Let's wait for all of the emotions to die down, more information to come to light, and then we can decide how we feel about it. I think that's very important. I think there's this push to just get it out there, just say it, just be first, just throw your opinion out there. And it takes time for facts to be discovered. It takes time for details to be known. It just takes time. So if it hasn't been more than a week, you really just don't know all the details yet. As a matter of fact, it's almost dangerous to have an opinion about anything sooner than 3 weeks after it happens. Almost. Some things are a little shorter. There's food for thought. To be morally objective is to have a fallacious, invalid argument. It is. I don't even know that it's possible for it to ever be something that is concrete. But people pretend that it does because their opinion matters and people just want to be right and correct. You cannot function like that. You have to understand the squishiness of the world we live in. Take it down a notch, take a deep breath, and have a discussion, have a conversation. Not a debate. The debate format is a terrible way to get through life. Conversation's the way to go. That's all I got. Please like, comment, or share. Curious to hear your thoughts.